The Beverly Hills offices of KatzSmith Productions are filled with the kind of treasures one would expect from the company that helped create it, currently the highest-grossing horror film of all time at the global box office. Haunting the conference room is an immense cineplex standee for Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, the 2012 film made from the mashup novel by Seth Grahame-Smith, who partnered with David Katzenberg to form KatzSmith. The SS Georgie, the paper boat whose maiden voyage into a sewer led to the gruesome death of the tiny owner in it, is perched atop a first edition of the Stephen King book that inspired it all. A "Keep Calm and Carry On" sign, among the E.T. and MacGruber posters, is marred with blood splatters, so it just says "Keep Calm." But perhaps the most intriguing item that adorns the walls of the workspace is the portrait of Dick Zanuck, the man who produced Jaws, The Sting, Cocoon and helped propel the careers of Tim Burton and Steven Spielberg. Hanging directly in front of Grahame-Smith's desk, Zanuck is pictured under the exaggerated gothic umbrella from the 2012 Burton remake of Dark Shadows. It's the prop from what could arguably be described as Grahame-Smith's first commercial and critical stumble. "I learned more about producing from Dick Zanuck in 2 years than I probably realize," Grahame-Smith says, motioning to the framed image. "He was old school, a capital P producer, the likes of which don't really exist anymore. He believed in getting right to the point when there was bad news, not dancing around it." He also had this line, "A good producer has the director and the studio convinced that they're his best friend. I asked him about this script once," Grahame-Smith continues. "It wasn't mine, thank God. He had read the script on a flight back from London, and Dick said, if I had been on a boat, it would have been in the bottom of the Atlantic. The margins are shrinking. The budgets are shrinking. Gone are the days of 16 producers on a movie who are just keeping the phones hot." Seth Grahame-Smith, co-founder KatzSmith Productions. "Some of the stuff he said reminds me of my dad, in that he was brutally honest," Katzenberg says, referring to his own Hollywood legacy. His father is former DreamWorks co-founder and current WNDR co-creator Jeffrey Katzenberg. Zanuck was a master at making everyone his best friend and serving as that punching bag for the studio so the director would never feel it and never know. Just a few days before the colossal success of it, Grahame-Smith and Katzenberg have opened the doors of their production company to talk about the future of genre movie making, or at least the future as they see it. Certainly they see the business of Hollywood shifting away from the old days, contracting to use their words. "It's harder to get movies made, period. The margins are shrinking," Grahame-Smith explains. "The budgets are shrinking, the returns are shrinking, and so gone are the days of 16 producers on a movie who are just keeping the phones hot, the studio informed and sitting on set eating craft services. You can't support that anymore." That's where Katzenberg, with extensive directing credits in TV, and Grahame-Smith, with his multiple writer credits, suggest their director-writer combination gives them a leg up on the old guard. They know the realities of tabulating hot costs, daily dealings with the studios and other producer duties, but they're ready and willing to throw a camera over their shoulder as well. True, the idea of a Hanson producer is enough to make some directors curl up into the fetal position, and neither of them suspect they'll be using their style of producing on a Chris Nolan picture anytime soon. But it worked for it and director Andy Muschietti. They contend that the future of Hollywood is much more fluid. They cite Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, and even Phil Lord and Chris Miller, despite the Star Wars dust-up, as creators they admire. All came up in the collaborative world of TV, as did Grahame-Smith and Katzenberg. The two first met in November 2006 when CBS was seeking content creators for its then-fledgling digital division. Together they worked on the little-known comedy series Clark and Michael, created by and starring Clark Duke and Michael Cera, plus a cast of now-beloved comedians including Veep's Tony Hale. In 2010 they co-created MTV's first scripted series, The Hard Times of R.J. Berger, which kicked off KatzSmith Productions. Meanwhile, Grahame-Smith got his geek bona fides writing the novel Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which would land him on Burton's radar, while Katzenberg built his resume directing TV including Awkward and The Goldbergs. But whispers about KatzSmith Productions' didn't really kick up until it started getting attached to the treasured horror staples from the past. Suddenly there was talk of Beetlejuice 2 and Gremlins 3, because nothing sets off the internet like news of a remake. So far, though, the only fabled reimagining to debut is It. The movie was such a huge success, the sequel was announced 17 days after the September 8 release. If horror could have a little bit bigger canvas, I think you're going to get some great movies out of it. Seth Grahame-Smith, co-founder KatzSmith Productions, first approached by co-producers Dan Lin and Roy Lee, who had the rights to King's novel. The original idea was that Katzenberg could direct and Grahame-Smith would write. Then director Cary Fukunaga reached out. "We were developing a script with Cary and his writing partner," says Grahame-Smith. During that process True Detective comes out, and of course, we all look like geniuses, but Fukunaga's it never materialized. New Line and Fukunaga parted ways 3 weeks before production. It was truly creative differences, KatzSmith says. It wasn't about personality. It wasn't about budget. Carrie gave us a script that became the basis of a great movie that we made. Yes, the tone was a little different, Katzenberg says of Fukunaga's vision. Yes, it was a little darker. That's very hard to do in the studio system. A parade of directors followed, many with complex lookbooks and elaborate sketches of its bloody clown Pennywise. But it was Mama director Machette's ideas on a few napkins and post-it notes that sealed the deal. He started with the losers, says KatzSmith, referring to its misfit kids who formed the Losers Club. Machete started talking about himself as a 13-year-old loser in Argentina, reading a translation of this 1,100-page book as a kid and what it meant to him. Although the KatzSmith partners push for a collaborative workplace and are more than willing to pitch in with dialogue rewrites or even helping construct a set, both are adamant about giving credit where it's due. It has one director, Katzenberg says. I'm a director as well, but I'm on this movie to service Andy and to be his producer. Both producers echoed their intent to protect Machette's vision and remain helpful where they could. A lot of the time, KatzSmith says, we would set something up, and Andy would come in and go, no, it standout Finn Wolfhard. Known for his improvisational, scene-stealing cuss-outs as Losers Club member Richie Tozier can attest to the on-set atmosphere described by the producers. That's why the improv worked out so well, Wolfhard says over the phone, because Seth and David were helping out, too. We'd see a line that didn't really work, and we'd use this little writer's room and brainstorm what we could say. They keep you on your toes. They're comedy writers and directors at the same time, so they get it. What does its success mean for the future of horror? They both hope to see the continuation of middle-budget horror movies. Not just Stephen King adaptations, KatzSmith says, but if horror could have a little bit bigger canvas, I think you're going to get some great movies out of it. Despite their desire to change Hollywood's perception of the producer, they're not willing to neglect the lessons from the past, including the words of Zanuck, who called KatzSmith the day before he died. He said, Sethy, why aren't we doing something together? Let's catch up. Let's have lunch. Still hustling and still trying to put movies together. It was very inspiring. I keep that picture there as a reminder of that. Sometimes you can sit here and bang your head on the desk, and you look up, and there's Dick. I love that he's got the umbrella over his head. I look at that, and I think he's just weathering the storm. That's what he did. That's what a producer does. They weather the storm. See more videos. Meredith.warner@lawtimes.com. Twitter @Middlemore Horror. The Pennywise Presidency and Why Horror is the Movie Genre of the Moment. Why this film critic won't see any more horror movies. The American Horror Story cast gets a taste of its own medicine at Roanoke Maze. TV horror versus movie horror. Guillermo del Toro on telling scary stories across different mediums. A timeline of horror movies and moments.